in Geneva now in the ITU. So back to your question. We all know that the telecommunications /ICT /digital sector is a fast moving and dynamic one. And to be able to lead in this field, one of the biggest challenges I find is to constantly keep abreast of all the developments. It's a Herculean task, but we've got to start somewhere, and you've just got to try. So when I started out, I realized that I had to read a lot to keep up with the pace. And as you mentioned, I was with the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission for 20 years. So before joining MCMC, I had done some work for the incumbent, but on the public affairs side. So competition, access, universal service, licensing, spectrum, I had to get into all that in a lot more detail. So I worked at it, and I tried to learn as much as I could on spectrum, for instance. Well, as much as a lawyer can try to understand about spectrum without being an engineer. So it's important to come well prepared to the negotiating table, especially if you're one of the few women there and need to have your voice heard. Knowledge, I believe, will give you a voice. But more than that, it's about how you apply that knowledge. Application is everything. So when I'm asked for advice or tips, what I tend to say, including to young women who are just starting out, is to read. Read, just read. Get a lay of the land so that you can understand the gaps, have the requisite knowledge to do your work, and find opportunities to contribute. So I've been doing this for a long time, even now, and the one thing I do is to carve out time to read every day if possible. And you know as well as I do that you'll never be done with your reading. So I believe that by staying well informed, women can gain confidence in their knowledge and their ability to participate and lead change in the field. And this is where having mentors and female role models can help. So the second chair of MCMC, who remains the only woman who has held that position, is one of my mentors. She used to say to me, "Don't let anyone trample on you. The way to avoid that is to be prepared and know what you're talking about. So there's only so much you can do with a little bit of knowledge." And she's right. So that's been my motivating factor for the past 2 decades. At the ITU, we recently launched a support network for women delegates, the Network of Women, or NOW, as we call it, in the ITU development sector. The network was set up to boost women's leadership in the sector. Its objective is to increase the number of women participating in meetings and taking up leadership roles, chairing committees, for instance, or working groups. The network also has a mentorship component through which more experienced professionals are matched up with women who have more recently entered the field to guide and to mentor them. So I know from experience, personal experience, that such a community of women can do wonders, just in terms of creating a mind shift and breaking boundaries that some women never knew were there. So in 2002 or 3, Malaysia hosted a gender conference, and ITU was one of the partners. I knew, of course, that there were women leaders in the ICT sector, but seeing them in action, how talented and knowledgeable these women from all over the world were, well, that showed me that there really are opportunities for women globally. So another challenge, and this may sound cliche, is managing your professional and personal life. I know it's a way of life for everyone, but it's still a challenge, a bit more if you're in a leadership position. In many instances, it's not easy, but it's possible to do everything you need to do. Well, almost possible. Many women leaders have raised children along the way, for example. And as I just said, that's a way of life. From halfway across the world, I've had to deal with science projects, missing school books, badminton rackets, and the odd basketball shoe gone MIA, you name it, But you just manage, and you will find that equilibrium between your personal and professional life. So we definitely need more female role models, but I've been very fortunate, Nina, to have had both men and women mentors. I certainly have had great supportive mentors who are men. And my previous chairman, Dr. Halim, and ministers whom I've served and guided me along the way have been such mentors. They are part of the equation in achieving gender equality. And I'm glad that there are men here today who are part of the conversation. So Nina, one of your questions was, why does championing female leadership in tech matter? So I strongly believe in women leadership in the tech sector. Technology has such an influence on everything today, which is why it's important to try our best to ensure that how technology is shaped and used is managed for the benefit of all. And for this to happen, women have to be able to contribute, share their perspectives, participate in decision-making. So as the UN Secretary General said upon taking oath for his second term, women need to have an equal role in designing digital technologies. And it's not just about how technology is evolving or developed, it's also about managing how technology is used, policy development, protecting users. We need different perspectives for all this, including from women. And we need to work together, harness the power of partnership, pull all the stops to ensure that women and girls are inspired and empowered to take their place as equal leaders in today's global digital transformation. And that's why women leadership in tech matters. We need to continue championing that. So again, I'm glad that there are men here today. And I'd like to make a quick shout out to my husband, whose support I can always count on in my professional life. Thank you, Nina. Back to you.
Thank you very much, dear Sulyna. Yeah, you gave a lot of wise advices for our women, and I hope the young generation will follow your example. Very positive. Dear colleagues, and let me introduce you, our next panelist, this time a man, who also made an incredible and interesting career. Mr. Giusti is head of Advocacy and Chief Regulatory Officer at Global System for Mobile Communication Association, GSMA, from the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Mr. Giusti was educated in the United States with a Juris Doctor from Boston University School of Law and a Bachelor of Science in Telecommunication from the University of Florida. Mr. Giusti spent 17 years at the United States Federal Communication Commission. He served as Chief of Staff and Senior Policy Advisor to Commissioner Michael Copps, where he provided legal, strategic, and policy support to the Commissioner on all major agency action, including the implementation of the National Broadband Plan. So today, as Chief Regulatory Officer for the GSMA, Giusti is responsible for leading the organization public policy and industry advocacy agenda with governments, regulators, and international institutions worldwide. So welcome, dear Mr. Giusti. My question would be regarding your quote, taking your own position in the GSMA. You had said, mobile is one of the most exciting and dynamic industry sector today, one that has already had a transformative impact on the lives of billions of people around the world, and that makes major contribution to the global economy. So, Mr. Giusti, what value do you think female leadership and increased participation of female specialists can bring to the development of the mobile industry?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for having me here today. And I think it's a very crucial question that you ask, because I think how well we respond to that challenge will be, I feel, very important to the future of the mobile industry that we at GSMA represent. So first, let me say, though, I very much agree with some of the key points that Sulyna raised, and I think working formally in Malaysia and now at the ITU, really that importance of working together with governments, with industry, is going to be really important as we try to close the digital gender gap. And I think that's one of the main reasons that we at GSMA partnered with the ITU, with UN Women, with the ITC and UN University 5 years ago, to jointly establish the Equals Global Partnership for Gender Equality. I think that's why we decided to join the Equals EU Consortium project as well as one of its 19 members. And I think it's one of the reasons we're partnering at today's event, because this digital gender gap is really a major concern, and it's a major concern for the digital and mobile sector. And obviously this is a development issue, but it's not just a development issue. This is an issue that impacts the bottom line. And I think that we should not lose sight of the fact that, that the lack of female leadership and that this gender digital divide really does have significant impact in terms of revenue loss, reduction in market scale, and workforce. So it's not just the right thing to do to address, it's also the profitable thing to do. So for those who might not listen to the right thing to do, let's also focus on what they can do to improve the economics. And at the GSMA, obviously, we have a number of platforms, and we engage across the industry globally. And we think it's very important for us to try to use that platform to advance gender equality and otherwise contribute to society, and to try to lead by example. And that's why we've worked with the mobile industry as a whole. And we were the first sector as a whole actually to commit to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And obviously, a key part of that is the commitment to SDG 5 on gender equality. So we further strengthen that as well by signing the UN Women's Empowerment Principles. And again, this links back to that business case for corporate action and promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. As I mentioned, there's real economic and talent benefits that come from increasing female leadership and representation in ICT. And in fact, I think many of our members are already trying to do what they can to lead by example and taking concrete action. And hopefully, I think also challenging each other to do better. Just a few months ago, AT&T in the US was again named to the Bloomberg Gender Equality Index for the third year in a row. Orange, another member with operations across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, has reaffirmed its commitment to greater female representation in technical roles across its operations. And just this past fall, Alison Kirkby, the CEO of another member, Telia Company, was recognized as one of the 28 most powerful women in the world by Forbes magazine. So again, it's these sort of true leadership in action we need to try to continue to demonstrate and also challenge. In addition to working with our members, of course, at GSMA, we do want to also look internally. And we have recently adopted a 4-point action plan, a broader action plan on diversity and inclusion that aims to reduce inequalities amongst underrepresented talent. Now, I recently had the chance to participate in the W20 summit in Rome, which was hosted by the Italian presidency. I think it was clear increasingly that industry, or at least some in industry, are moving beyond reacting to government policies and mandates to trying to demonstrate their own leadership and the benefits of a more inclusive business environment. And I really do think that there is a duty on us in the digital sector to try to do what we can to show leadership, because we always talk about the future being digital, and we all know that an estimated 90% of future jobs will require digital skills. So clearly we're knocking things over in the office. So we clearly do have, we do have a long way to go. I think we saw some of the stats that you mentioned up front. And globally, in 2019, women held just 29% of senior roles and 20% of board director seats. Today, we know that women are only 7.8% of CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. And I think it's also worth noting that only 3 of those 39 women are women of color. So, and I think, Belinda actually mentioned up front, the disproportionate impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has taken on women and people of color in particular, we cannot lose sight of. Just over the past year, we know that women across major economies were 24% more likely to lose their jobs than men. And if this persists, global GDP could suffer a $1 trillion loss by 2030 if nothing's done. So I think it's very important that as we look to tackle this, that we think about the role that leadership teams within industry have, and how they properly reflect the diversity of the communities from which they come is going to be so important to ensuring the sustainability of business. I think all of us here recognize this has to be not just a tick the box exercise. This has to be about true empowerment to thrive in whatever role or position a woman holds within a company, or really anyone holds within a company, and the broader mobile ecosystem is really going to need to be taking this challenge to heart. We actually recently successfully hosted, somewhat miraculously in the current environment, our Mobile World Congress Barcelona, where we did have a GSMA Diversity for Tech Summit. And I think one could really palpably feel there this shift from just awareness to the need for action. And you could see more demonstrable elements of action. So I think that's something, hopefully in today's discussion, we can look at how to keep these actions moving forward. And I think there's also, I think importantly, we have to be careful not to just focus at the top, because I think it's important what happens at the top. But throughout an organization, it can't just be whether there's enough diversity on the board or in senior positions. I mean, it's important for sure, and it has broader impacts. But it's also important for development and to understand whether people, whatever their positions in the organization, feel empowered and supported to progress their careers. That's why GSMA partnered with EY and Oslo Metropolitan University, along with other equal partners, to do a pilot study that undertook the task of quantifying the differences between men's and women's perceptions of leadership attributes and behaviors across the mobile and tech industries. This study, the perception of power, championing female leadership in tech, which I think is in part inspired some of today's discussion, found that women's and men's perceptions of themselves and leadership differ. I mean, I know that's not totally surprising, but it was good to start trying to quantify, have real data on what's going on out there. And while men appear to identify more as hands-off leaders, women identified more as what we would call transformational leaders. So with 58% of women really very strongly specifying the importance of purpose in what they do. So they perceive themselves as concerned with others' abilities and desires to succeed within an organization to a greater extent than men. And I think we all know that prior research has shown that transformational leadership can prove a powerfully effective approach in many cases. So I won't go into the details of all the study, of course, but I did want to give an indication of the recommendations in 4 key areas that are included. These are aimed at fostering best practice for promoting and retaining women in leadership positions in the mobile and tech industries. And these are, one is, I think, really acknowledging the range of transformational leadership styles and what they bring. 2 would be providing incentives to individuals to develop effective leadership skills. 3 is, and we've heard a little bit about this from Sulyna, is the importance of mentorship and training. And lastly is, of course, increasing research into and spreading awareness of factors that affect leadership equity and fairness. So there's a lot more to see in that report, and I would encourage everyone here to look at it. But I really think that understanding the self-perceptions of female and male leaders is going to be important as we try to move beyond targets to ensuring that women in leadership positions feel truly empowered in their roles, and therefore bring the maximum benefits of their unique skills, of their experiences, to the discussion and to the table. And just lastly, just to finish up, for our sector, I think we need to also look not just at our own companies, at our own organizations, we also have to look at our users. And I think closing the gender gap in usage is something we cannot lose sight of. Over the past decade, we have had a program called Connected Women that aims to accelerate digital and financial inclusion in lower and middle income countries. Now, we've already reached 39 million women through this work, but there are millions, hundreds of millions more that we need to reach. And mobile phones really can be a lifeline for women, both economically and socially, providing them with critical information, services. And I think that understanding that gap as well is going to be important, particularly as we try to respond to the implications of COVID. So I would direct everyone to our mobile gender gap report, which will have more details on some of those areas. But in conclusion, I just want to say that, GSMA, we are very much committed to action. We do have a lot more work to do, we know that. And I think hopefully insights and discussions like those today and the Equals EU project will help better inform what we do both within GSMA and also, I think importantly, and more importantly probably, with our 750 members across the world. So thank you so much for allowing me to participate today, and I look forward to more of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giusti. I know that you and your GSMA was able to involve powerful and wonderful women in your organization. And thank you for expertise and important points what you give us for discussion. I'm sure will be questioned later, but now we are moving forward, and it's a really great honor for me to introduce our next panelist, the leader of our project, without whom actually our meeting and our project would not have had a place at all. Dr. Anthony Giannoumis is Associate Professor of Universal Design of ICT as a Department of Computer Science at Oslo Metropolitan University in Norway. Dr. Anthony is an internationally recognized expert in universal design of information and communication technology. He leads several large-scale research and innovation projects based in over 27 countries. Dr. Anthony works with the United Nations International Telecommunication Unions as the vice rapporteur for the subcommittee on ICT accessibility and research coalition lead for the Equal Global Network. Anthony is founder and chair of the board for the Global Universal Design Commission Europe AS. He is a member of the board for many laboratories, the Global Universal Design Commission, Inclusive IT, and Human for Humans. Since 2014, Anthony has acted as a principal investigator for research and innovation project with budget total over 11 million euros. Anthony has taught over 3,000 students and mentored over 23 startups. And this is only a small part of the biography of Anthony's achievements. We are really delighted to have the opportunity to collaborate, to learn from Anthony. Anthony, it's your floor. You have mentored over 23 startups so far, half of which have been led by women. And in your opinion, Anthony, what are the main differences between female and male leadership styles? What can men learn from women in honing a more effective leadership style, particularly in the tech and innovation field?
Thank you, Nina. And I'm absolutely humbled by that introduction. My goodness. I was just reflecting on this because I think what John mentioned in the report is really important in terms of providing a set of data that supports some of our intuition and maybe some of the anecdotal experiences that a lot of us probably share. I was lucky to be a PI on that project, so I was one of the principal investigators. But what I really want to talk about is what it means to me as a professional to have a woman leading a startup, or in one of my jobs as associate professor at Oslo Metropolitan University, my direct supervisor is a woman and she's the head of the computer science department. So I'm really, really lucky to have had the opportunity to serve under some absolutely just rock star individuals who have really taken the work that we want to do, championed it, taken it forward, and I've gotten to learn so much being under their supervision and being under their mentorship. I would say there's something in this that I think is really important for us to draw out, and that is that I, as a man, and I think men, all of us, have a lot of benefits that can be gained from having women in leadership positions. And I think that means that we benefit from feminism, we benefit from gender equality. And I don't know that that's always put into the front of everybody's attention. This is not a women's issue, this is a human issue. And I think there's so much value for men to get out of gender equality because we're all kind of suffering under these same patriarchal values, the same misogynistic values that put pressure on men and put different expectations on men. We can all kind of unburden ourselves by championing gender equality. So I would say the number one thing that I've gotten out of working working with a woman as a supervisor is a clear vision on how we can move forward. And I think this is so valuable for me as an employee because I can look to this person and understand very clearly this is the direction we are going. I've always had this experience where the women I've worked with have set a very clear agenda, very clear focus, and not just a goal. I think there's really important here to differentiate a goal from a purpose. The women I've gotten to work with, they don't just set goals. Okay, we want to do this by the end of the year. We want to do this by the end of the quarter. They set in your mind a sense of purpose that you can take to any activity that you do within that organization. And that kind of animates and fuels your ambitions and your desires to do great things. So I think that's number one, vision. Number two is this idea of hands-on mentorship. I think this is so undervalued in our workplace. And I've worked for men, I've worked for women, but I've never seen more care taken, more direct interest taken than by the women I've gotten to work with in my own personal growth and development. And that is incredibly satisfying as an employee, especially when I was a junior academic coming into this new university, not really knowing what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. to have somebody with the strength of character to say, not only we're going in this direction, let's all get there, but also to have that individualized attention, support, autonomy to really understand how to make that happen. Now, I'm not talking about micromanaging here. It's really important that we differentiate micromanagement from hands-on mentorship. And hands-on mentorship is also not macro managing either. It's somewhere in between where an employee feels supported, feels cared for, and feels like they have some autonomy, but that sense of supported autonomy. Now, of course, this is not a universal truth. I'm not going to, make a blanket statement that all women supervisors are like this, but I will say that the women who have supervised me have all taken this character, and I've benefited immensely from their leadership. I want to take us really quick now to kind of a different context, a different social context, because the work that I've done has primarily been under supervisors in the global north. And there's a different frame of reference in the global south. And there's a real paucity, there's a real lack of knowledge and understanding for what these different contexts bring to the table, whether that's a cultural context, social context, economic context. And it also involves this issue, this concept of intersectionality, and understanding a little bit better what are the intersectional issues that are at stake here for people who hold intersectional identities. So I think that like a good academic, I'm going to say we really need more knowledge in this space. We need more validated data that can showcase how the different leadership styles are playing out. And especially when it comes to knowledge in the global south, we just absolutely need more investment, because the future of innovation is intersectional.
Thank you very much. Thank you, wonderful speech, and really thank you for inspiration. So women have very high responsibility to go on with such good words you mentioned. And thank you for advice and concrete points that we can also use for our conclusion session. So dear colleagues, I am happy to introduce our last panelist. Is a female leader in ICT sector from Kenya, Miss Mercy Njue. Mercy Njue is the founder and CEO of Botlab, a company that provides bespoke training in data science and cybersecurity to boards, small media enterprises, and the tech community. Miss Mercy has a bachelor degree in business and technology, as well as an MBA from Africa, Nazareth University. She is trained in General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, by University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and is certified MBA Cloud Professional, as well as a graduate of the Data Science for Business Leader Program by Data Incubator Chicago. Ms. Mercy leads the Nairobi chapter of Women in Data, an organization that supports women exploring careers in data science. Mercy founded Botlab with a mission to highlight the power of technology in order to increase the uptake of technology use in Kenya, advocating for data science as a growth tool and cybersecurity as a risk mitigation tool. Mercy's company, Botlab, has trained over 4,000 professionals. So another woman leader, dear Miss Mercy, thank you for joining us. You are founder of Botlab, a software accelerator based in Kenya that conducts bespoke executive training in data science and cybersecurity to business leaders. So my question to you, what do you think, therefore, is the most effective solution in closing the digital skill gap and elevating women in leadership position across the ICT sector?
Thank you so much, Dr. Nina, also for the introduction. Thank you for everyone who has attended. To answer your question, I would say there are couple of things maybe that I would want to highlight. One of them, especially under digital, is to making sure that the knowledge of that the knowledge is understandable and that the consumers who you're targeting can consume it. Because it is one thing to articulate that this is the training you want to maybe train, but it's another thing that someone can be able to have the knowledge that you want them to have and actually implement. What I've seen, especially in the digital space happening, is the metrics that are used to measure sometimes the knowledge that is being carried down. You will find people attending the training because of the brands of people who are behind the program, but immediately after the session, there is very little translation between the knowledge that has been taught vis-a-vis the impact. So sometimes it becomes very difficult for people to actually consume the knowledge that you want your target audience to have. So if you are to train, or if you want to give a certain knowledge to people about digital skills, it is important that the donor needs are articulated, the industry needs are articulated, and also the recipient needs are articulated in such a way that they can actually see the benefit of them taking in the program. I've seen instances where we have been partners of a session for youth, young women, and the key to them was employability. So if the training did not have an employability component, most of them do not want to attend. When it's SME based for small businesses, when they do not see value in terms of how do I make money out of this, or how does this help me make money out of this, they will attend, yes, but the uptake of what you are trying to teach, literally, you are unable to measure. Then about women in leadership, what I've seen, especially for me when I started out 4 years ago, it was very difficult even to convince women in tech to actually even mentor me. So what I realized, what happened for me was there were so many men around me that I decided to ask a specific asks. I have a problem in this, or I have a challenge in this. Is there a way you can be able to help? And progressively, I've been able even to enter circles where there are women, and women are not easily trusting. They need some time before they can warm up to someone. And what I've seen is there are different versions of mentorship. I have seen versions where it's formal, where it's just we meet, we talk, we hear your problems, we advise you, we move on. But what I've seen work for me is literally mentorship where someone handholds you. So for example, when I was starting out on some of the integrations, because we are currently doing mobile money payments integration. So what I've seen to be a benefit is a lady will handhold me, literally handhold me. They will show you suppliers to talk to, and if you have challenges, they will use their credibility to help you access supplies. Sometimes it will be financing. They will talk to banks or even loan you money to be able to actually get work done. Sometimes it's labor. They can easily get into getting their own talent pool or their own employees, help you to show you what needs to be done and at what level of standards. For me, that is one of the biggest things that I've seen in mentorship circles work, right? As compared to the formulative, where it's mentorship, but it does not have a big backing, especially when someone is starting out. So I will say when it comes to the advancing women in leadership, it has to be from the heart, where those people who want to mentor, it is actually in their best interest. And the ones who want to be mentored have to be ready to do the work. And they have to give themselves to do the work, because sometimes there's that misalignment where one party overgives or is ready, but the other one is not able to. Thank you, Dr. Nina.
Thank you, dear Merci. I can feel your feminine leadership style towards your work and business. It's so nice. Thank you for yes, it's a good idea actually to consume knowledge correct and functional way, how to get benefit, yes, for it. It's really a very good idea. Thank you for highlighting. In conclusion, dear colleagues, I would like to, you see, we have wonderful speakers, and I don't want to let him go, sorry. I would like to ask some general question to all our panelists. Just in 2 words, what is one key commitment that you can undertake to change the state in play in your industry, in your sector over the next minutes, but also 10 years? Next 10 minutes, but also 10 years. So please feel free. Who is...
Dr. Linde, I'll be happy to get us started here. I think in the next 10 minutes, I will commit to getting on social media, which I don't do often enough, and trying to continue to disseminate our messages that we're putting out through Equals EU. So again, our handle on most social media platforms is equals-EU. You can also use the hashtag #EqualsEU. And if anybody out there is willing to put out some messages for us, then I would love to follow you, and so that we can continue this work together. On a more strategic level, I think the next step is really, for this project in particular, is to start establishing a pipeline that exists outside of formal education spaces that continues to elevate the most marginalized groups.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your commitment. So, who next? Probably
I'm happy to go next.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start with the next 10 years first, Nina. So from where I sit today, the key commitment that I can make is to promote gender inclusivity through the mainstreaming of gender policies. So because ITU has a diverse membership that consists of member states, the private sector, and academia, and we are more fortunate in that respect compared to other UN agencies, as we are uniquely positioned to drive a much needed multi-stakeholder approach to gender mainstreaming. So while working with governments who set the standards and policies to ensure that gender is considered from multiple and wide-ranging aspects, we simultaneously work with the private sector, who is well placed to make on-the-ground impact. And we've seen the private sector come forward during this pandemic to deliver connectivity and digital skills to communities who need them. And we need more similar initiatives that focus on digital skills for girls and women to make an impact and bridge the gender digital divide. ITU is already doing this. I mentioned the Network of Women movement earlier. And of course, we are all gathered here today through the Equals Global Partnership. We also have the Girls Can Code initiative, Girls in ICT Day, and we have the Global Mentorship Program for Women in Cybersecurity to enhance women's leadership in that area. So in the next 10 minutes, though, that's a bit more tricky. In the next 10 minutes, I commit to pinging my colleague Roshni, and I hope she's listening, to continue with our knowledge sharing sessions for at least 90 minutes tomorrow. Where's Roshni? Anyway, thank you, Nina. Back to you.
Thank you. Very functional approach. Thank you. So, please, Mr. John Giusti.
Yeah, no, thanks. Well, I mean, just in terms of immediate action, and I always think we both need to be doing what we can immediately, not waiting till tomorrow. So engaging Tamara and Belinda, my colleagues from GSMA, just to see what we can take away from today's discussion, to sort of tweak, look at what we're doing, both internally and through Equals and others. But I think in terms of longer, I think Sulyna mentioned the important work that Equals is doing on a number of fronts. But one I would like to just call out is sort of the longer term and 5-year commitment. We've partnered with the International Telecommunication Union, one of the co-founders with us of Equals, as well as some of the Equals members, EY and Women's World Wide Web. And we have pledged to design and provide access to free training and e-mentoring for 1 million women by 2026 through something called Her Digital Skills Initiative. So again, I mean, it is a step. There's always more to do, but I think as long as we can keep partnering and finding the right parties to come together and try to expand opportunities for women. The more women that get into STEM, get into STEAM, who come through the channels, the easier this work will be.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely agree with you. So please, Miss Merci, and also your vision in 10 minutes and in 10 years.
In 10 minutes, first of all, is to say that I have collected a lot of information from this session, so I will incorporate it in how we work. In the next 10 years, I was one of the beneficiaries of the Equals program as an Equals fellow. And one of the things that I purposed was to also keep holding other women who are in the space, who want to come into the space, and to also give back to the young women who are in college, because sometimes that's where we lose them into STEM. And also buying and committing that every door that opens to me, that I will look for other women in the space to go through the door that I walk through, because that is the only way, especially for women in STEM and who are also running businesses, to keep the gender divide going up. Because I can tell you for a fact, in most places, we are usually the only contractor. So it would be nice if it could be 3, it could be 5, if it could be 10 out of 100. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, dear Mercy. Yeah, you will be the best example for inspiration, young women to join ICT sector. Thank you, dear panelists. Great comments, great ideas. We can feel a leadership approach, a responsible approach. The more we will have such personalities as you, the better our world will be. And now I would like to actually to give next, I don't know if we have time for a question and answer. I would like also give a little bit time for our participants, make some question to our panelists before they are leaving our session. So do we have any question? So from Bani to everyone, I agree that you mentioned that mentorship is very, just a moment, I can open, yes, is very important point, not only for women in tech, but also for diversity. As a Women in Technology Association, we are focusing on mentorship too. Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome, Nina. Thank you for your all the presentation. And I would like to introduce myself. I am a accredited mentor, and I am from Association Technology in Women. And EMC, I am accredited mentor in EMCC Global. I am a member also. And have to nice to see all comments about mentorship. It's very important for the future. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, please feel free to raise your hand or pop a question in our chat. So from Roshni, Ryan, to everyone, very much looking forward and always grateful for the session and learning. Sulyna, thank you very much. We have a mentoring club for female cadets. It's very important issue for defense and security sector. Thank you. Great quote from Anthony, the future of innovation is intersectional. Absolutely. Thank Michael, that was a key need as we saw in the programs we are leading in the Novartis Foundation, but also why the inclusive and affordable mentoring at tech startup, Manity Mentor was founded. Yes, thank you. A lot of great words, thank you very much, and agreements to our panelists' statements. We need to consider mentorship across borders and geographic boundaries, a foundational success element to any efforts. Thank you. So I drilled so many of the speakers to talk about mentorship. It's the best kept secret of professional growth and equal opportunities. Nowadays, remote mentorship is especially relevant for women from low income setting who don't have the access, the financial means, or even opportunity to travel. Much to be shared on that, given the sustainable lack of mentoring program in the health sector. Thank you for your comment. So do we have Yes, Arif, dear Arif Zaman raised the hand, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, I just wanted to come in, if I may, just to ask a question. So my name is Arif Zaman. I sit on the board of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network. We work closely with GSMA. My question is really around the anchoring this discussion this morning in the emerging tech space. I mean, we know that there are areas, you mentioned ed tech, health tech, fashion tech, fintech, and others. And my question is, as these areas are evolving, and they're clearly at an early stage in their evolution, what specific opportunities might there be for the discussion we're having this morning? I think we need to make the link between this discussion today around the issues we're highlighting and these emerging tech spaces. We produced a report for the G7, which GSMA were also part of that process, where we highlighted the importance of joining the dots between the emerging tech spaces and the digital gender divide. So I'd be very interested in people's reactions and responses to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your opinion and comment. So do we have another participants who would like probably to make some comments or questions?
Nina, I could respond to Arif's question, because
yes,
I think it's a really insightful question, trying to stay on that leading edge of where technology will go next. And one of the things, I'm actually not a computer scientist, I'm a social scientist. So one of the things I studied for many years is trying to understand how value systems inform our judgments and decisions. And I think if we can start shaping fundamental core values around equality, around what gender identity is on a global scale, that can have the most lasting benefits, and it becomes embedded in all of the technology we create. And then the value systems kind of shape how that technology is presented, which in turn shape in a positive direction our values. So it's this reciprocal relationship between technology and society. Now that's a much easier thing to describe than it is to do. But then, you know, a lot of this goes back to the way we create our laws, who's in these chambers, and then how these laws are being put into practice. So I guess complicated answer for a complicated question.
Thank you, Anthony, for answering the question. So we have another raising hand of DG. And please, yes, Dorothy Gordon, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Dorothy Gordon. I've been working in digital and innovation for a couple of decades, and I'm often invited to speak on gender issues. And I'm very concerned that we have these, similar to today, very safe places where everybody on this call is already committed to this. And then we talk about a lot of projects and collaborations, but over this time, we still have not managed to change the direction enough to overcome the divides. And the projection is that it's going to take us several more decades to overcome these divides. So my question to the panelists is, what can we do concretely to have an exponential increase in the number of women that are actually entering this space, so that we will not need to have these kind of panels? Let's give it 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy, for your question. Who would like to answer, please? Probably, yes, Ms. Sulyna?
I'll give it a shot. Dorothy has asked an extremely pertinent question. The answer to that, from my perspective, Dorothy, really is political will. We need to find the political will to do this. We need to convince the powers that be. Gender mainstreaming is an important part of policy, of regulation, and there has to be an ecosystem that has been set up in countries to be able to do that. And how do we work towards political will? I think the more we talk about it, the more people will understand and be aware of the situation. And hopefully that will snowball into something concrete. But as I mentioned, my in my commitment for the next 10 years, and it doesn't start in 5 years. It started 3 years ago, perhaps. ITU has been trying to mainstream gender policies in all countries. So hopefully there will be something concrete coming out of that. When I was in Malaysia, the regulator, the first survey that ITU sent out in the early 2000s asked how many women there were and what was the percentage of women employees in the regulatory authority. And the answer was 50%, not just at the leadership level, but at all levels. And hopefully many countries would have that sort of story to tell. Dorothy, I hope that helps. Thank you.
Maybe I can just give, supplement what Sulyna was saying, because I think she's spot on, and this political will be, to get the kind of scale that Dorothy mentions. I mean, it's daunting, and there's no question about it. It's daunting. How do we do that, and how do we get? I mean, I was just at the W20. Everyone's saying the right things, but are they going to do the right things when they have to allocate budget? But one of the things that we've been looking at, and it's not specific to gender, but I think it's something we could look at in this space, is, it's probably more being talked about in the environmental context. Are companies doing enough to address climate change? It's sort of, and so you have an increasing focus on these environmental, social, and governance indicators, these ESG indicators in their reporting. And if investors, employees, consumers start to expect more and demand more, and companies report and get benefited or rewarded by doing more, I think we could see change. So we've been quite focused on this, particularly in the environmental context, but I think obviously gender and gender equality is a key part of ESG. And I think, I think the more we look at how to incentivize and how we put pressure and make it a benefit of something that people expect to happen, we may be able to move the needle a bit more.
Thank you very much for your comment and answer. I hope it will be helpful. And now we are a little bit behind the schedule. For this reason, I will give the last question. I will read from our chat the last question of Fabiana Mena. Thank you very much for your question. I am Fabiana Mena from Argentina, V20 delegate. As Anthony said, I agree that the future of innovation is intersectional. Can you share with us any program or projects that reinforce indigenous women knowledge through digital innovation? Anthony, probably you can answer.
I wish I could give a good answer for that one. It's a huge challenge when we start considering the multidimensional barriers and forms of discrimination that people who hold intersectional identities face. I'm not aware of any specific programs around Indigenous persons, although it may be that the ITU is working on something as of now, or has got something in the pipeline. It would be brilliant, but I agree that is kind of the leading edge of where we need to look forward as we kind of decolonize this space in the work that we're doing in innovation and inclusion. So it's an excellent thing to consider.
Yes, because the fact that we are working on it with my colleagues in W20 Communique, and the fact is not only, of course, the problem are the barriers that all this group, rural women, indigenous, and so on, are facing, but it's also how we can add value of all this diversity of knowledge, that through digital, I think it is a big opportunity, not only for to achieve really a real inclusion with intersectional focus, but also to improve, our own habit or way of life. And digital inclusion is really an opportunity to achieve that. We are working on it in Argentina and in Latin America, but I'm really looking for other experiences to know more and share experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabiana, for your interest, for your great question and your engagement, active engagement. And now I would like to give the floor and to introduce Tamara Dancheva. She also wonderful woman leader, and Tamara will get acquainted with the further organization of workshop For over a decade, Ms. Tamara has worked in various roles in global organizations with a primary focus on gender equality, human rights, and international relations. In her current role as International Relations Manager within the External Affairs and Industry Purpose Department at the GSMA, Tamara is responsible for coordinating GSMA strategy across various gender initiatives in the digital space. Tamara also leads on GSMA partnership with United Nations Women, the Equal Global Partnership for Digital Gender Equality in the Digital Age, and the Commonwealth Business Women's Network, among others. So she holds a bachelor degree in the international business from Rockhart University, Kansas City, United States of America, and master degree in politics and government in the European Union from the London School of Economics. Tamara, it's your floor.
Thank you so much, Nina, and thank you, colleagues, for joining today's meeting. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, and of course, I'm particularly excited because, as both my colleagues Belinda and Anthony mentioned, today's discussions will be captured in a report which we'll publish under the umbrella of the Equals EU project. And of course, this report will be shared with all of you at the end of the year, not least via our social media channels. So as such, your contributions today, including through the workshops, which you'll be joining shortly, will be recognized. So thank you once again for joining us today for these important discussions. Before we dive into the workshop, I just wanted to give a very quick overview of how the rest of the meeting will proceed, because I recognize that, of course, we still have roughly 3 hours to go. First things first, do not worry, we will introduce breaks during the actual workshop discussions. I trust that all of you have received the briefing, which was circulated on multiple occasions, and of course, you would have referenced the agendas there. Now, as you have seen, we will proceed with 3 specific workshops, and my colleague Victoria is going to share the workshop links in a second. You should have also received an email yesterday advising you which workshop you have confirmed your participation for, but if for whatever reason you are unclear, uncertain, or you have forgotten your workshop allocation, please stay on the line with us, and we will, of course, assist you and guide you to the correct discussion. Very briefly, I want to emphasize a really important point. The themes that you see on your screen have not been chosen randomly. They're really important because, of course, they feed into the overall objective of the project of promoting gender-inclusive innovation ecosystems. Now, the first workshop is going to be led by University of Haifa, and it's going to focus on strategic communication to promote gender equity by translating objectives into practice. So without diving too much into this description, which of course you'll also receive at the beginning of your workshop, the workshop will introduce a multi-stage strategic process for implementing strategic communication to promote gender equity objectives within different organizational, social, and individual contexts. The second theme, as you also see from the screen, we'll look into women's digital rights in healthcare. And here, under the guidance of University Hospital Cologne, you will be discussing strategies and solutions around the use of technology to advance gender equity in healthcare. And you will also discuss the correlation between digital rights, access to technology, and healthcare provision. And last but not least, workshop 3 is going to look into leveraging STI skills for gender equity. And that workshop is going to be led by the Middle Eastern Technical University, which is our third Equals EU consortium partner for today's discussion. And that workshop is going to look into dispelling harmful gender-based stereotypes in the science, innovation, and technology field. So this is a very quick overview of the workshops, but as I mentioned, your facilitators will properly introduce the teams before you subsequently jump into separate breakout rooms. As a reminder, please save the links that my colleague Victoria is going to now share in the chat, so that in the event you accidentally exit your workshop, you will be able to jump straight back in. As I mentioned, if for whatever reason you failed to save the link or you didn't catch any of this introduction, please remain on the call and we will help you. And in the event that you accidentally exit your workshop after you join, please come back here. This link will remain open for the entire duration of the workshop and we will guide you. After you conclude with your workshop discussions, we will meet again here. So that's roughly in 2 hours time, where each of the workshop facilitators will share the conclusions from your discussions. And then we will also hear some very brief closing remarks from my colleagues, Anthony and Belinda, once again. So that is in terms of the proceedings. If there are any immediate urgent questions from any of you, please raise your hand now or pop a question in the chat if any of this was unclear. Otherwise, you're welcome to now join your links. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tamara. Hello, it's Lauren here. I'm just struggling to, I'm in group 3 and I'm struggling to, I can't seem to get access to the link. Where can I'm dialing in from a phone because I've had browser issues today. Oh, it's only just appeared on my screen now. Don't worry, it's just popped through from Victoria. For some reason, I'm having a bit of a delay. I'll go through now.
We'll remain here until everyone joins. So we'll wait for everyone.
Thank you for navigating.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
Hi, Tamara.
Hello.
Hi, sorry, I'm a bit lost. I can't find the link for workshop 2.
Workshop 2. Okay, my colleague Victoria is now going to pop it in the chat.
I just share it in the chat. Can you see it?
Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. No problem. I'll turn on my camera so they know I'm here.
Joanne, please feel free to join workshop 3 link. Lydia Best will also be there. Thank you so much.
Hiya, for the captions to continue, the person that needs the captions needs to remain in the main room.
You need to join workshop 3.
If I join workshop 3, then the captions will stop. Captions need to remain in the main room.
They will enable captions in the workshop. I had provided instructions prior to this meeting for this purpose.
Okay, that was not what I was told, but I'll give it a try. Thank you.
I did communicate that. Apologies. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, do you mind sharing the link again?
Which workshop, please?
Workshop 2. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Joanne here. How do I join workshop 3, please?
Victoria, could you please? Yes, Victoria has just popped it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Giannoumis.
Hi, Gianna.
Hi, I'd like to join the workshop 3, please.
Yes, that's the last link. Let me just reshare it.
I just reshare it.
Thank you, Victoria. Did you see it?
If you want only workshop 3, you have it here again. Can you see it?
I can. Gianna, is it all good? Yeah, I think she's left us now.
Okay.
Arif, Maria, Jainaba, John, are you clear where you need to go? Gianna, the link is in the chat.
In the chat, yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Arif, Jainaba, Maria, are you clear on which link you need to join, colleagues? Can you hear me?
Maybe they're not there. I sent an individual message to each of them with the links.
Thank you, Victoria. I see them, they're still here. So, colleagues, can you hear us? Arif, Maria, Tanya, could you please advise us what the issues are? Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you need to join your workshop links now, please. The sessions have started. So if you're still in the room, you're not on the right link. So please join your links.
I'm not sure they're here. I messaged them individually.
Well, okay. I mean, that's all we can do. I can still see them. But again, I'll pop a last announcement in the room. And then, yeah, I mean, Victoria, of course, you'll stay
I'll
here.
stay. So if they have any problems, they can
Okay.
reach out to me.
Perfect.
I sent them individual messages, so I'll stay here if they need anything.
Okay, great. I'm going to join workshop 3 then. Oh, Arif says he's been in the right link since the beginning, so I'm not sure why he's still showing in this room.
No. But I saw him until a few minutes ago.
Okay. All right.
And maybe some other people use a different device, so they're connected in both.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll see you.
I'll keep messaging.
Sure.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just cautious of time and cautious we're slightly behind. So I would like to kick off the last part of this meeting. And of course, that should hopefully give time for the last remaining workshop participants to join us. I would first like to give the floor to my colleague, Dr. Njue, who is going to share a very brief summary of the, I'm sure, very exciting and insightful discussions in workshop 1. Njue, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Tamara. So I really enjoyed, from my perspective at least, having the opportunity to hear from so many different perspectives from the participants in workshop 1. The workshop focused on translating different objectives that people might have in their organization to promote gender equity. And what we did is we went through a process where people first defined what they care about, how they might bring that about, how they might define it in a way that's measurable and feasible. And then once they did that, they had to think about who or which group in their organization could help them achieve that change. And we got some really interesting discussions going about different stakeholders. And then the final part of the workshop was an application of theories of behavior and predicting behavior, and understanding that if you want people to help you, you need to give them a reason, and reasons can look different. So it can be based on incentives, it can be based on, perceived benefit for the organization, for the person who can help you, shared values, shared identity. We talked about the ethical aspects that you might want to take into account, issues of intersectionality. Mostly, I just learned a lot about the different kind of places people work, and also the different challenges that people, and women in particular, can have in hiring and promotion and mentoring. And it was great. As they always say, the cliche that you learn when you teach. So I learned a lot, and I hope it was helpful for the other participants.
Thank you, Njue. It sounds like you've reached some really important conclusions, which again, as a reminder to everyone, we'll ensure are captured in our final reports. Next, I would like to give the floor to Barry, my colleague Barry from University Hospital Cologne, who is going to report on the outcomes from workshop 2. Barry, over to you. Thank you. Barry, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was being muted. But I have to say, for us, it's also a very excited meeting here. And we're also happy to share with you in the following 5 minutes what we discussed. So I have to say that in the start, the digital right is actually a very fresh new topic for all of us. So, but it's also very important that we start with this iceberg. We know that there are some common questions has to be covered, and we hope that in our workshop, we are able to go deeper to make the icebreaker. And then we kind of start with the ice breaking. We make the brainstorming to everyone to share their stories during the pandemic. So what does the pandemic teach us concerning about to care up our women digital right? So then we plan to have the 3 breakouts, but due to time, we omit the first one. We focus on the number 2 and number 3, the know-how to say, okay, what kind of the structures could be critical to address women's needs, to improve the gender equality in the digital health, and also to discuss some actions to share the experience to promote the women's digital rights in healthcare. And also, I have to say, we are trying to using the Miro board very hardly. And as you can see, with both 2 questions, we're able to collect so many brilliant ideas that to not only cover the, the current the focus, but also really rising, for example, the mentoring program are very important, for example, for the health sector concerning the women digital right, and also concerning of different training programs, as well as this start as early as possible for the primary care information to both the kids and also the families. And also concerning of the other actions we are covering was also, we are thinking, for example, the gender-specific medicine, including the medical studies and also clinical trials, has to be importantly considered to cover also the female patient. Yeah, so this is also something we think is important to be covered, and also to include women in the low-income countries, for example, to cover about ICT to improve the access for the digital healthcare. So there are really so many things have to do. And yeah, so we try to, I mean, in the following few months, we try to finish the report. I think it will be also very important to organize and classify what might be important and what was the priority to take actions in the future. And yeah, so today we are using the tools, so from the information, communication, and technologies to try to make the integration of the digital right with the healthcare. And the final goal is to achieve the gender equality in the digital age. It's a very big goal, I know that, but at least today in the limit 2 hours, we are able to really rise up so many questions to convince ourselves that we are truly believe that women digital rights in healthcare really matters a lot to championing the female leadership in digital age. And our women's digital right was actually staying in our hands. And 70 years ago, we know we can do it. And today in the digital age, we also know that we can do this. Yeah, so let's make actions start from now and start from here. So thank you so much. This is the workshop 2.
Thank you so much, Barry. Again, really fascinating discussions, and I very much look forward to reading the report from your session subsequently. And I see, of course, that you reached some of the same conclusions, of course, even though the topic of your discussion was slightly different. Last but not least, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Suman with Middle Eastern Technical University for a brief report from the outcomes of workshop 3.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tamara. For me as well, it was a great discussion, and I learned from a lot. And in 5 minutes, it's not possible to transfer what I learned from you, but I try to be precise. First of all, we already mentioned about pinpointed the main problems, barriers in reaching the career in the ICT sector. We talk about the gender stereotypes, and we talk about the role of motherhood, and we talk about geography. How does it make change in terms of accessing the skills as well as using it and designing it. So these are the main problems, but I would like to focus more on the solutions. What our participants has suggested. Mentoring is the first one, actually. They said that women need inspiring studies and role models to get into the road to the ICT field. And the role models is really important. Maybe one of the participants mentioned about their rector, women rector. She was the first women rector, and she said that she got really impressed by that. And also it is mentioned in our workshop, mentorship needs to be inclusive. Both include men and women, so they should both get mentorship in order not to create hierarchy and discrimination between men and women. This is, I think, really important. Skills that women need, okay, it's very important. Not only the technical ones, but the soft skills are really important. This is the main highlights of our workshop. Education is very crucial. Ministry of Education plays a great role in this regard to get women and girls into the ICT sector, but still it is really crucial to enhance girls' soft skills, which is not easy to do from my point of view as well, because these are hidden gender bias and it's really difficult to tackle with them. And so for soft skills that our participants suggested, like confidence, self-efficacy, and leadership. Again, I already mentioned, but role models are very important, and also need to the girls should need to interact with those role models, with the influencers. Yeah, there are structural barriers. It's not easy to go beyond, but there are some initiatives and platforms trying to get into the sector and make a transformation on that. And another important thing is the language, importance of language. We should resettle the vocabulary, education about digital literacy, starting from the kindergarten, starting from the when the baby born. So it's very important to change the language. And as far as I see, geography makes a big change and sector makes a big difference in terms of getting into the ICT field, and also a lack of network between women overlaps with the lack of role models, lack of mentorship. So lastly, I would like to say public and private sectors interaction is really important. Students in the academia or in the high school should be really connected with the private sector, and the gap between the two should be closed. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you, Suman. I'm glad you highlighted the importance of public-private partnerships, because we started the meeting with that, and we are almost concluding with that, because of course this is the objective behind the Equals Global Partnership. Now, cautious, we have only 5 minutes left. I would like to give the floor first to my colleague Anthony for very short concluding remarks, and then we will end with my colleague Linde XLP. Anthony, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Yes, short concluding remarks. I hear you loud and clear. I just want to take a minute to step back and kind of observe how meaningful it is for us to share this space. We've been living through this pandemic for 18 months, and I know all of us have kind of got Zoom, like just we're dead with Zoom, but it also gives us these critical opportunities to learn from one another, to connect with one another. And so I think my greatest hope is that today is a trigger for action to come. And one way that you can help take action is by checking us out on our website, equals-eu.org. You can follow us on all social media channels. We will be publishing the proceedings from this colloquium very soon. And so we want you guys to have the latest, greatest knowledge on this issue in your hands so you can help use that to take action. And thank you again, Tamara. Thank you to each of the workshop facilitators. You are amazing. You are my role models. So I look up to you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Anthony. And last but not least, Linde, over to you.
I'll be very brief as well. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who participated today. We're thrilled that we had so many people engaging with us and contributing so much to the discussions. And as Anthony mentioned, the report will be published and all of your contributions will be acknowledged. So thank you very much indeed. I'd also like to add my thanks to Tamara in particular, also to Anthony and the other co-host organizations today. And finally, just to say to anybody who is not yet a member of Equals Global Partnership, now you've had a taste of the Equals EU project and you see how we approach some of these projects. Please do consider joining us. We have loads of projects going on, and obviously you're all passionate about gender equality issues, and I think there's so much you could contribute and also gain from membership of Equals. So please do visit equalsintech.org, and we hope to welcome many of you soon. Thanks very much, everybody.